Should idols be allowed to date? On a random Monday morning, a single photo of an idol walking next to a rumored partner hits social media, and timelines instantly fill with words like scandal and betrayal. Some fans say their dream has been shattered, while others argue that the idol's happiness should come first. Scenes like this have played out again and again in the idol world, each time igniting fierce arguments about what fans are really buying and how far an agency can go in limiting an idol's private life. Should idols be free to date like anyone else, or is restricting romance a necessary part of the job under the current idol business model? In this video, we present a 10-round, 20-turn debate where the pro and con sides clash head-on from equal positions. Which side do you agree with more, and what kind of relationship between idols and fans do you think is ideal? Share your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's get started.
As a conclusion, I believe idols should be allowed to have romantic relationships because they are ordinary human beings. Romance and marriage fall under personal rights and the pursuit of happiness, which are protected at the constitutional level, and they should not be excessively restricted just because of someone's job. Many idols devote almost all of their late teens and early 20s, a once-in-a-lifetime period, purely to work. Even so, they are condemned under a structure where, if you fall in love, you're a traitor, which is hard to call a healthy work environment. And in the long run, we cannot ignore the risk of people leaving the industry or burning out.
Given the current business model, idol romance should in principle be restricted. The Japanese idol industry does not sell them just as singers, but as objects of pseudo-romance, and the fantasy that maybe I might actually have a chance drives CD sales, checky events, and paid online events. Agencies and labels invest large sums in training and promotion before debut, and if a romance scandal causes fans to suddenly leave before that investment is recovered, management and employment can suffer serious damage. From a risk management perspective, having restrictions on dating is, in that sense, economically rational.
It's true, there is a logic of contracts and investment, but we still need a line for how much of your private life you're allowed to sell. Bans on dating or marriage go beyond an employment contract and come close to turning the person's very personality into a commodity, almost like saying, if you want this job, give up living like a normal human being. On top of that, many idols are minors at the audition stage and don't fully understand the industry's practices and risks. So even if we talk about freedom of contract, it's questionable whether we can really say there is a fair agreement between equal parties.
Both the idols themselves and their families decide to sign while knowing those conditions. So the counter-argument, if you don't like it, don't become an idol, also holds. Just like professional athletes accept doping tests and strict lifestyle management, they take on restrictions ordinary people don't have in exchange for dreams, income, and influence that ordinary people cannot reach. From the agency's point of view, there's also the question of who bears the loss when a romance controversy drives fans away. So drawing the line that if you want full romantic freedom, choose a path as an artist who doesn't sell romance as part of the product is realistic.
Fan values are not monolithic. These days, there are more supporters who say, I just want my Oshi to be happy, or I'll still support you even if you get married. And on social media, we can see a certain number of voices that continue supporting even after dating rumors break. Younger generations in particular tend to feel uncomfortable about no dating rules, and some even criticize them as a violation of human rights. The industry may simply be trapped in the assumption that fans all want idols to be single. And in reality, it might be missing out on a potential customer segment that would keep supporting them even if dating were allowed.
In practice, most of the revenue is supported by the hottest core fans who pour in the most time and money.
This group often has a strong, exclusive romantic feeling, and there have been many cases where their passion suddenly cools after a scandal. No matter how much the light layer fans say dating is fine, if the people spending tens of thousands of yen on handshake events, merch, and paid events walk away, the business collapses. Looking only at the numbers, it's rational for companies to align with the expectations of core fans and restrict idols' romantic relationships.
Catering to those core fan desires harms idols' mental health and safety. The stricter the ban on dating, the more fans are encouraged to fall into the illusion that they belong only to me, which makes it easier for them to cross boundaries into privacy invasions, stalking, or online abuse. On top of that, if an idol lives under constant pressure that if I fall in love, my life is over, the risk of depression, anxiety disorders, or eating disorders goes up. A system that forces this level of mental cost just to maintain a work persona is not sustainable in the long term.
Mental health issues are important, but they are not caused only by bans on dating. The entertainment world as a whole is packed with stressors, irregular schedules, volatile evaluations, and harsh criticism on social media. There are other professions, like announcers, voice actors for certain roles, or teachers, where private behavior is restricted by professional ethics. Some jobs by their nature demand a certain level of self-management and resolve, and you can see refraining from dating while active as one such rule. So I don't think it's so extraordinary that it's automatically unacceptable.
What we need is not an absolute ban, but transparency of expectations and reining in excessive punishment. If from the start a group openly says, we may date, fans can factor that in when they choose to support them. And even if a relationship is reported, the feeling of betrayal is weaker. Ideally, even when a romance becomes public, the system should allow idols to calmly explain and keep working, instead of forcing them to shave their head or be fired on the spot. The problem is less romance itself and more the culture that treats romance as a scandal.
Trying to change that all at once right now is dangerous. Since fan culture and media treatment will not change overnight, any group that brands itself as okay to date will, at least in the first few years, face a high risk of backlashes and sponsor withdrawals. If revenue becomes unstable during that period, what happens to the livelihoods of the members and staff? A society where romance is not treated as a scandal is ideal in theory, but because the industry as a whole hasn't reached that stage yet, it is harsh to make current idols carry the cost of that experiment.
Nothing will change if we keep saying society isn't ready yet. In fact, business models that depend on banning romance are highly likely to wither away because of declining birth rates and increasingly diverse values. Shifting the focus toward winning with performance, content, and world building while letting idols date is more likely to attract overseas markets and new fan segments. Exploring models that both respect human rights and make money is exactly what will become the industry's survival strategy in the long run.
That long-term direction has some logic, but individual companies and groups have to get through this fiscal year's results and the next tour. There is no guarantee that allowing romance will actually open up a new fan base, and at present, the probability of losing existing fans is higher. Business decisions should be made based on risk and return rather than ideals, and right now, it would be irresponsible management to prioritize romantic freedom while knowingly taking on a high-probability risk. Even if we plan a model shift, we need much more cautious testing and a phased introduction.
The burden of romantic restrictions falls more heavily on female idols. Male talents sometimes even get more work after dating reports as popular ladies' men, while a female idol can be labeled a traitor or unprofessional over a single romance and effectively be driven into retirement. The same act of dating causes vastly different damage to one's career depending on gender, which is clearly gender inequality. A culture that keeps this structure alive through romance bans is frankly out of step with the times.
There is a gender gap in how people react, but that also reflects differences in what the audience wants. Japan's Idols You Can Meet were designed from the outset as a product that sells a boyfriend-girlfriend experience, and the fans who are attracted to that concept form the market. Bringing in the gender equality perspective is important, but from a business standpoint, they're providing the package that most people want to buy. If there is genuine demand for idols with full freedom to date, then groups with that concept should be launched, and fans can choose them in the market.
There are many artists overseas who openly date or marry, and the music industry still functions. Global pop stars and rock bands turn their relationships and divorces into stories in their work, and that often deepens fans' empathy. If only Japanese idols remain trapped in the assumption that their market value drops if they date, then when it comes to international collaborations and attracting overseas fans, that value gap in norms can become an obstacle. If they want to think seriously about the global market, they need to move away from a culture that treats romance as taboo.
A large share of Japanese idols' revenue comes from domestic fans, so there's no absolute need to comply with global standards. Just as anime and manga with very Japanese contexts are embraced abroad, a culture of adoring unsullied idols can also stand as a local specialty. Among overseas fans, too, there are people who say, "I like Japanese idols because they're pure and have few scandals." Rather than aligning everything with foreign norms, keeping romance-restricted idols as one of many forms is also a kind of cultural diversity.
What I want to propose is more choice. We could have clearly labeled concepts, groups with strict bans, groups that say dating is free but we won't talk about private life, and groups that are open about dating and marriage. Fans could then choose idols whose stance matches their own values. That way, instead of a harsh either-or, if you want to date, don't be an idol, we could also have role models of idols who value both love and work. There is no need to make a no-dating rule the default for the entire industry.
The further that kind of fragmentation goes, the more the market is split into small niches, and the break-even point for each individual group gets higher. In reality, only a small number of groups with strong brands and a large unified fan base are likely to survive, and the others will probably be short-lived. Under those conditions, it's totally unclear whether a romance-friendly idol model can function as a stable business. We could just end up with only the traditional no-dating groups surviving. Theoretical options don't matter if the market doesn't choose them.
I still want to say clearly that idols should be allowed to have romantic relationships. An entertainment system that survives only by forcing people to sacrifice natural feelings and relationships will inevitably warp somewhere. Even if there are temporary drops in revenue, by gradually steering the industry toward accepting romance and treating idols as real human beings, it can become a healthier, more sustainable business in the long run. It's time for fans and companies alike to be ready not to worship idols as statues, but to support people.
Within the current framework, idols' romantic relationships should basically be restricted. The importance of human rights arguments and ideal visions is understandable, but on the ground, contracts, investment, employment, and fan culture all intertwine, so you can't simply declare, just let them date freely. Whether to fully allow romance is a topic that should be revisited after the industry structure and fan values have already changed significantly. At least for now, only those who are prepared to refrain from dating should take on the profession of idol.
This concludes our 10-round debate on whether idols should be allowed to date. Which side do you agree with more, and what kind of rules around idols' love lives do you think are ideal? Share your thoughts and experiences about idols and romance in the comments.